Views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the participants. The hosts make no claim to be literary experts, and their opinions are exactly that, opinions. All creative works discussed or reviewed are the intellectual property of the creators of said stories and is being used under the fair use doctrine.
Two of Swords and Soulmates, a podcast where we read, watch, and discuss romantasy stories. I'm one of your hosts, Mari, and with me I have Kelly.
Hey everyone, it's Kelly. We also have Ashley.
Hey guys, it's Ashley. We also have Jonathan.
What's good, everybody? It's JP. How are we doing today?
Good. We have a whole lot of news. So today we're going to be discussing Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame by Neon Yang. But first, all the news. we don't have a ton. It's not like the most we've done, but we've got a good bit. I didn't think we had a lot of news and I started putting it together and yeah, there's a lot of news.
Whoops.
First thing is the Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst, which is the kind of sequel to Spell Shop that we read. It's not really a sequel because she says it's set in the same world, but it can be read as a standalone. So she's not calling it a sequel. But anyways, it's getting the Owl Crate special edition treatment. So they're doing like a fancy cover with fancy edges and designed, end pages and all that mess. It's $34.99. It ships in mid-August. And it will be available to the general public on June 26th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. To buy if you are interested.
It looks beautiful.
It does.
A different art, definitely the painted edges with the flowers and I like this. This is it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of what are those like Pennsylvania Dutch hexes? Is that what it is?
How would I? Who knows the answer to that?
People in Pennsylvania,
you're the only one,
Eagles fans. I think it might be. Maybe it's not. It might not be limited to Pennsylvania Dutch. It could be Mennonite. I don't know. Let me bing it.
Yeah,
okay.
You're doing the thing where you're talking. The words are words, and we know what the words mean.
Yeah,
but we don't know where you're trying to get at.
Pennsylvania Dutch hex signs are colorful folk art symbols traditionally painted on barns and homes and believed to bring good luck and protection.
Oh yeah, that looks like very folk style. Okay. Yeah, I like it. I've already pre-ordered the regular version, so I think I'm going to stick with that because it matches the, Spell Shop that I have. So, big matchy fan. But it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. The next thing we have is that Fabled Fantasy Events, which is doing the Romantasy Con that we went to last year and that is happening this year in Orlando in October that Rebecca Yaros and a bunch of other people are going to. They have started doing Romantasy retreats.
Oh.
Yeah. So the first one is in Savannah, Georgia at the Gastonian. The authors for this one are going to be Adeline Grace and Kaylee Smith. And they've described it as there's going to be book discussions, arts and crafts, games, tarot cards readings, a private ghost tour, and more. You basically have
ghost tour?
Yeah, because it's Savannah. It's a very Savannah thing.
Oh, okay.
They're going to do, basically you're signing up and it's like the food is included, all the meals are included, and the hotel stay. When I looked today earlier, there was one type of slot available, and it was $1,800.
What? How many days?
I didn't see how many days
It better be like a week.
Yeah.
$1,800. That's a lot of money.
I think the Gastonian's like Kelly, you've been to Savannah more than I have. Isn't the Gastonian like downtown, ritzy, fancy hotel?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's like historic in Savannah. So yeah.
But it's a retreat, right? So it's like everything's accounted for.
Right. The food is accounted for and all those events it's all included. So it's like a mini intensive con, I guess, with those people. Like if there was an author that I was really excited about, that would be kind of interesting, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
Not that I have anything against these authors. I just don't know their works.
It includes a book with custom sprayed edges, book themed crafts. Like there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
For that money.
Yeah.
It's, and I think if I almost not like the live action role play stuff, but like those almost like a cruise then.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Cost?
It feels like a cruise type setup as far as how they're doing it.
minus the boat, right?
Yeah. Instead of being stuck in a boat, you're stuck in, I guess, a historic hotel in Savannah. You know what I mean? Like it's a destination thing, because a lot of people go to Savannah for vacation stuff. Like old Savannah is like a big tourist destination for people. So you have
What are the dates?
Let's see.
Yeah, I hadn't seen anything about it.
Payments are going to be, it says the payments are, you can split it up into 3 payments, June 15th, July 15th, and August 15th. Okay, but when is the actual event?
It looks like they start at 1500.
Those are all sold out.
Those are all sold out?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. You know, it doesn't have a date on their website.
But it doesn't say like the...
Yeah, no, I'm not seeing it either.
What happens when you go to book what's open?
I see a sign up option, but it doesn't let me click anything.
Is the honeymoon suite available?
August the 21st, 2025. Thursday, August 21st, 2025. I guess that's the first day.
I think this would be a cool event to do in the fall in Salem.
It would be ridiculous to do it in Salem. Like, Salem is gorgeous. I don't know that I would want to go to Salem in the fall. It is so jam-packed.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I just if we talk like thinking along thematic lines.
Oh yeah,
this could.
It would be interesting to do it if there was a theme to the authors. You know what I mean? Like if the author tended to write things that happen in a particular area, it would be cool to do one of these in that area.
Oh yeah, good call.
Like I'm thinking. I know this is not what they're doing, but like, oh my god, I've completely blanked out. The Wizard books we were talking about last time. Those take place in Chicago. So like a thing like that would be cool in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's where the books are set. That's where the series is set. Like that kind of a thing would be interesting.
Gotcha. Or like Juliet Cross does a series
New
out
Orleans.
of New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't give me an excuse to go to New Orleans. I am down for New Orleans, period. But yeah, that would be a real interesting thing to do. Like a New Orleans retreat thing with Juliet Cross. Yeah.
We should, Juliet, if you're listening.
Juliet or Fabled Fantasy, get on that. Somebody get on that.
Yes. Send the royalties check over to us for that idea. JK.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting about this too is the size of it. So, I mean, if you look at it only seems to be about 15 rooms that are available in this whole list, and so it's like 2 people per room kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about less than 100 people probably that are gonna be doing this thing. So, I mean, the inflated cost is also because of how small right they're keeping this.
You're getting lots of time with the authors and with like really immersed in being with them. You know what I mean? So like I said, if it's somebody that I really was one of my favorite authors, I think that would be interesting to do. It might be worth it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you'd have to be a fan, which I think is the point is, for those authors to get to interact with fans that are very into it and be able to really build on each other's energy,
Yeah.
So it's an interesting idea.
It's a great concept. I just think it's a little too expensive for me.
I agree.
But you like to ball on a budget.
Yeah, I'm very, very cheap, you guys. I don't know if you know.
I mean, you start to think about it, depending on how many days it is. Savannah's an expensive town. It's a tourist town. So you've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, subtract that out from the cost times however many days. You're already bringing the price down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of times when things like that, I thought it was expensive, and then I started reading like everything was kind of included, and I'm like, it very much is that cruise model. You pay everything ahead of time, and then once you get there, you just enjoy it. You don't have to then like pay for things after the fact.
Yeah, if you're talking about a 3-day kind of event, 1,800 split up between that, I see the vision,
right?
And I appreciate the concept. And like you said, maybe depending on the author, it's probably something I might have been more interested in. And not that these authors aren't, big. These are some pretty decent sized names.
Yeah, I recognize the names. I've just never read any of their works. Yeah, I don't think.
I thought isn't Kaylee Smith Phantasma or no?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, Kaylee Smith Phantasma. Okay. Didn't you read that? I read it.
I read that one. I just forgot it was her.
You might look at me differently after that one.
I'm going to apologize for any audio issues that are happening. I looked and it was not supposed to rain today. And this room is
Is
very
that what I
loud.
heard?
Yeah, we have skylights and they're beautiful, but then when it rains, it's also beautiful to look at, but you hear it, like we had a tin roof and we don't, but it sounds like it. So some of that will probably come through in the audio. It will go away soon, I hope, because it wasn't supposed to rain at all. So
No worries.
yeah, so I thought that was an interesting branch out for Fabled Fantasy. Like, I hope it works for them and they're able to do more with like different authors and things. Because even if it's not something that I may necessarily do, I think it'd be an interesting opportunity for lots of people to do because, there's people who maybe couldn't come to the con or whatever because it's the time of year or because they weren't able to get tickets fast enough, that kind of thing. But something like this, they can kind of plan out for ahead of time if it ends up being something they do often.
Yeah. Look at them
Yep.
growing wings and flying and this is a whole new thing.
It really is.
Speaking of Fable Fantasy, they're like still announcing authors, right?
They are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're pretty soon we're gonna need to get to where we start reading some of the authors, and we're just gonna have to hope that the ones we pick stay.
We need to know who we love ahead of time.
Right. Which a lot of the authors that are going to be there this time, we've actually have already read, either because of just in general, some of the stuff we've read for the podcast, or some of the ones are going to be back from last year. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what we think of this year's crop. All right. Next tidbit of news is that Paramount is adapting Divine Rivals into a movie. Divine Rivals is by Rebecca Ross. It's very well, recommended, very well reviewed. I've not read it, but I know a lot of people really like it. Had you read it, Ash?
I did. I thought so there's more than one book. Let me take a second. Sorry,
yeah.
My brain is
I think it's a
processing.
duology.
This is new information. I think it's a duology, but there's definitely at least 2 books. I have not read the second book. I did read the first book. I'm curious about, a movie's probably the correct route. I don't think this was a very action-packed book by any means, although there is a war situation that's happening in this world. It's an interesting concept from the story perspective because there's definitely fantasy elements in how they communicate is what it is. So I don't know how I feel about this because I don't remember. I don't want to say that I was bored. I think that's very mean. I wasn't bored. I definitely finished the book. I don't know how. Maybe it will communicate better, on the screen than it did for me in the book.
Yeah, and sometimes that happens. I haven't read it. Have either of you guys read it, Jonathan or Kelly?
I haven't read it. No, it's the cover looks.
Jonathan and Kelly, have you guys read Divine Rivals?
I have not. Although the cover looks super familiar. Like I feel like I've been in every Target that I've been in. This book is on the shelf somewhere.
It's everywhere. It really is. Ash, correct me if I'm wrong because I've not read it. Isn't it almost like a World War II kind of setting, like a historical kind of feel to it?
Yeah, that's probably a good explanation, but it's also like futuristic at the same time. So I think this is one of those books where they don't really clearly, timestamp it, but it is definitely that feeling, pre cell phones and, computers and things like that. Yeah, it's been a while. I'm really trying to remember. It was probably not too long after the first book came out because I remember it being very soon for the second book to come out. And it does actually kind of leave on a little bit of a cliffhanger if I remember. So everybody emotionally prepare for that. Yeah, a lot of things sometimes translate better on TV or in the movies than they do in a book. I wasn't particularly super excited for book 2. I wasn't chomping at the bit, but it wasn't a bad story. It was just a very mellow story, if that makes sense. And it's YA and slow burn literally young adult. I think they were 18, 19. It wasn't a bad story though.
The script for the movie is going to be written by Sofia Alvarez. So we'll see. We'll see how that translates to visual media.
Who's Sofia Alvarez?
I have no idea. It just said it in the news thing. I don't know what else she's done.
Okay.
I just know
Cool.
she's the one
I
that's
thought you were like in the know.
No, sorry.
Like, oh
So
yeah, she knows.
I
who
had
this
started
person
to
is.
read about this. Is Sophia? I think it said, and I had to back out of it. So my phone's being weird. Sorry, but I think it was saying that the team that helped with is it All the Boys I Loved or something like that?
The TV show?
Yeah.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Yeah. Divine Rival. Sorry. I did have it up and then I got distracted by something. Yeah. So Sofia Alvarez is the scribe behind the first two To All the Boys I've Loved Before films, which are based on the books by Jenny Han. So Sophia will write the film script for the studio. She made her directorial debut with a Netflix film adaptation of Sarah Dessen's Along for the Ride, which is also another big, I don't know if she's considered romance. I think there's a bit more drama involved with her books, but Sarah Dessen is also a big name in the book world. So I feel good about that because I have seen several of the To All the Boys I've Loved Before films, and I thought those were very, very good.
Interesting. Speaking of adaptations of books, I didn't put this in the notes, but the Black Dagger Brotherhood series that was adapted to TV for the series by Passionflix came out last Thursday. I watched it. I read the first book. I also watched it. I thought it was well done. I don't know if anyone else but me has seen this.
I haven't.
Okay. I thought it was well done. For it being like a vampire story, kind of set in the 90s. There was a lot of opportunities for it to get real hokey real fast, especially when the main character is kind of modeled after Peter Steele of Typo Negative, which very generic goth of the 90s kind of vibe. But I thought they did a really good job. I am looking forward to the next one.
All right.
That reminds me, not to go too deep into a tangent, but I know we were maybe discussing some additional content for future episodes. What about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie?
It's been forever since I watched the movie. I watched it at the movie theater when it came out with my dad because my mom hates horror. So it was a thing me and my dad did is we went and watched, not that it was very horror. It was like campy horror, but we went and watched it. I'd be down to watch that sometime. Yeah.
I have never watched it.
I don't
it's
know.
Good. It came out way before the TV show did. So it doesn't have like the same actors or anything in it.
Right.
But it was the inception for the TV show.
Is it streaming?
We'll find it somewhere.
As you make this suggestion.
I'm sure. Well, we can find it somewhere.
Yeah, we'll figure.
I can find a DVD of it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I think maybe if there's a list going, and I don't mean to take us off track. If there's a list going for it, maybe that's
a good one to add. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, next bit of news we have is Tor Publishing is re-releasing T. Kingfisher's and Nine Goblins, which is a short little novella, and she describes it as a novella of low fantasy and high mischief. I've not read this one, even though it's been out. Like, I think the original came out in like 2013, so it's been out for a while, but it's getting a hardcover version through Tor. I've not read it yet, but it's on my list. My very much shortening list of Tekken pictures I have left to read because I've read almost all their stuff. But it looks really cute. It's like 9 goblins have to go in and, have a little mission. But of course, nothing is simple because T. Kingfisher doesn't write straightforward, boring stories. So basically, the little synopsis says, no one knows exactly how the Goblin War began, but folks will tell you that goblins are stinking, slinking, filthy, sheep-stealing, henhouse raiding, obnoxious, rude, and violent. Goblins would actually agree with all this and might throw in cowardly and lazy, too, for good measure. But goblins don't go around killing people for fun, no matter what the propaganda posters say. And when a confrontation with an evil wizard lands a troop of 9 goblins deep behind enemy lines, Goblin Sergeant Naselka must figure out how to keep her hapless band together and get them home in one piece, despite a path filled with elves, trolls, monsters, and that most terrifying of creatures, a human being.
That sounds so good.
It sounds cute.
It sounds very Jim Henson-y.
Yes. Very much so. So I'm excited about that. I know. New T. Kingfisher. I'm surprised. The next little bit I had is Laura Thalassa's series, The Four Horsemen. The first one of those, which is Pestilence, is getting the graphic audio treatment. So not just an audiobook, but graphic audio, like dramatization with sound effects and multiple actors and multiple narrators and all that good stuff. It's out now. Pretty excited about it. I may end up rereading it.
I was going to say you've read these before, right?
I have. I read the whole series. So I saw at the bookstore the fourth one, which of course is Death. And I'm like, oh, I want to read a story about death because I do. Because duh, to me. But of course I had to read the first three to get to Death. So that's how I ended up reading the whole little series of the Four Horsemen. And it is like the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse as personified by these not quite human creatures.
Interesting.
It's all the Laura Thalassa I've read so far, even though I know she's got several other series that are very popular. I haven't read them yet, but I really enjoyed that series and I plan to read more of her works. All right, next little bit of news. Ash found that Marissa Meyer's The Lunar Chronicles is getting an animated film through Warner Brothers, which is set to be out November 3rd of 2028.
Is that like, do we know what level of animation that's going to be? Like standard old fashioned Bugs Bunny stuff?
Unclear.
No. If I had to guess, I would assume it's going to be like Arcana or like Castlevania. Have you seen either of those animated stories? Like, I think it's going to be that style. There's not any pictures yet though, but what they have released is that Noel Raphael is the director. Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, so whatever Warner Brothers Pictures Animation style normally is, says Warner Brothers Pictures Animations and Locksmith Animation are behind the project that has a script credited to Lindsay Ferrantino and writing partners Kaylin Egan and Travis Santel, and Christina Steinberg serves as the producer. I haven't read these, but I know you have, right, Ash?
I have.
It's
I
like
was a fan.
fairy tale retellings in space, right?
Yeah, it's futuristic, maybe. I want to say, well, and so the series continues beyond just, you know, the first book, obviously, but the first book is like a Cinderella retelling, and so it's futuristic, you know, very mechanic robots, but also I think like Asian or Chinese, and I might be gaslighting that, please forgive me, but I do vaguely remember that kind of, you know, vibe situation happening, or setting scenario happening. And then the story, you know, the additional books introduces a new character. And so I think one of them is like Rapunzel, like a Rapunzel retelling, but it's all like very interconnected, if I remember correctly. It's been many, many years since I've read it, but I do recall it being a very good story. It is YA, so I don't think, you know, the romance gets too crazy, but it's a really good book, and I think you get a little bit of a plot twist at the end of it, which was nice when if I'm remembering correctly. But I am a fan of the series, and so I'm excited to see, you know, a version of it come out on the screen so that more people can get into the book. I think Marissa Meyer's a pretty big name as well.
Yeah. I've heard really good things about this series. Like it was on my list to read because I've heard several people talk about how good it is. It's just, you know, the ginormous TBR.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say, it's a big series too. It's like 5 or 6 books, I think.
Is this going to be an animation?
Yeah, it's animated.
Yeah, she said.
Well, the only reason I say that is because ILM is involved in this. And it looks like the article reads that there's costume designers.
Interesting.
I assume, you know, I don't know. I don't know how animation works, but I assume like they have to design costumes too. You know, they have to bring a look.
Design the look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look up, you know, the series on Amazon or whatever, I do believe that they did a reprint recently with new covers and stuff. And so when I read the word, you know, when I read the article and it said it was going to be animation, I immediately, you know, my brain defaulted to the more recent book covers. And so like that's where my head went. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, to an extent there has to be a certain, like they're building this from the ground up. There's no, you know, existing precedents that I'm aware of. I think this, you know, that she rebuilt this world. It is a true retelling in a different, you know, location and a different time and a different setting completely.
Yeah, I hope they do some really good stuff with animation. Just because animation done well is for all ages, and it really allows a lot of creative freedom that you don't have to deal with, actors having to be put through dangerous situations or, tons of special effects or having to come up with lots of extras and, clothing all these people and scenery and locations. And I think it allows the effort to go into the imagination of it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's been a thing going around for a while now that they don't need to do like an ACOTAR as a live action, that if the ACOTAR ever does get produced, it needs to be an animation.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was an interesting shift too, for Rebecca Yarros when they, announced this year that they're doing the graphic novels for the Fourth Wing series. And so I wonder if, should the Amazon Prime series not work out, if, maybe that's the future for some of these fantasy, bringing to the screen, that graphic novel kind of portrayal in a series or in the movies, I think would be really interesting as well.
Yeah. And then there's the idea of like, maybe if the animation does well, they'll make a live action movie on down the road, like How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
Good flex. Oh, interesting. So I'm sorry, I just kind of went down a rabbit hole of the animation companies because my first thought was there are some of the other elements here that this could fall into would be like the Dr. Seuss stuff, because it looks like Warner Brothers is set to release some new a new animated Cat in the Hat, and then I went down the rabbit hole of who was involved in Cat in the Hat, and it was Illumination. So then I was like, you know what, that doesn't make sense because they're disconnected from Illumination is clearly not Locksmith, right? But it looks like when you Google or Bing, when you Bing Locksmith, it immediately pops up with some Illumination credits. So maybe the style of animation will be similar to How the Grinch Stole Christmas with
Cumberbatch.
Is it yeah, that one.
Could be interesting. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. We'll find out in 2028.
So much time to wait.
Yeah. The last little bit of news I had is that we are in June. June is Pride Month, LGBTQ+, and we encourage diversity and stepping outside of your tried and true reads year round. Maybe give a queer author a try this month, regardless of your genre of choice. And that is why we chose the book we did, Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame, by Neon Yang. Neon Yang is a queer author, and the story is a queer story. The love story aspect of it, anyways, is a queer story. So we picked this book because it kept coming up on lists in a bunch of places. It was just published May 26th of 2025, so it's very new. It's a short novella. It's got dragons, and it kept being described everywhere that I saw it as Mandalorian with dragons. I'm like, yes, I will take some of that. Thank you very much. Let me read the synopsis, and we'll go from there. Few know the true identity of the masked guild knight of Mithrandan. She barely remembers herself. The masked guild knight, Yiva, was 13 when she killed her first dragon. With her gift revealed, she was shipped away to the imperial capital to train in the rare art of dragon slaying. Now, a legendary dragon hunter, she has never felt truly at home, nor removed her armor in public since that fateful day all those years ago. Yiva must now go to Quambao, a fiercely independent and reclusive kingdom. It is rumored that there, dragons are not feared as is right and proper, but instead loved and worshipped. It is rumored that there they harbor a dragon behind their borders. While Yeva searches for the dreaded beast, she is welcomed into the palace by Quenbal's monarch, Lady Suki. Though wary of each other, Yeva is shocked to find herself slowly opening up to the beautiful, mysterious queen. As they grow closer, Yeva longs to let Lady Suki see the person behind the armor, but she knows she must fulfill her purpose and slay the dragon. Ultimately, she must decide who or what she's willing to betray, her own heart or the sacred duty that she has called home for so long. Spoiler warning. So if you haven't read the book, read it. It's short, and come back to us. unless you don't care about spoilers. So what do we think?
I like this book. I thought, they packed in so much. I think, what's the page count? It's like 176 pages.
It's super short, yeah.
Yeah. But really, she flew through an absurd amount of information in a very small
A chapter.
Yeah. Like her whole childhood was chapter 1. Is that what I'm like turning to look at him? I can't see him. Yeah, it was wild, and I don't feel like I missed anything. Was the other part of it. So it was short, it was sweet, and it was very sweet. It was, not a very, intricate story, but I did think that it was impactful in what and how much it covered in such a short amount of time.
Kelly, what did you think?
It was short.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, but Ash, how many stars did you give it overall? I'm sorry. Ash, you there?
I'm here. Sorry, what was the question?
How many stars did you give it overall? Sorry.
Oh, I thought it was a 4. For 176 pages, I was delighted. It was a 4.
Kelly, how about you?
It wasn't a terrible book, but definitely had a lot of plot holes and inconsistencies. The good part about it was at least it was short. I would say a 2.5.
Jonathan, what do you think?
I agree with Kelly. It was like, it was, I'm sorry, Kelly, how many stars did you end up giving it?
2.5.
2.5. Yeah. I mean, I agree with Kelly. I think it's it was a short book. It just didn't vibe with me. I thought it could have been so much cooler had she given it enough time to kind of shake out the details, but it just didn't land because there just wasn't enough to hook me. Almost like felt like I was going to get hooked and then things would just escalate in a direction and they would just take a chapter and just really finish. The end of the book was amazing in terms of how much they packed into one thing. I think where it really fell apart for me though was when I put 2 and 2 together over the parallel between the periodic blood
illness.
What was it? How did she say? Blood illness or blood?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, so once a month you have a different personality?
I think Kelly turned to me at that part and we were like, oh, were-dragon?
Yes. I love that. This isn't our first were-dragon story though.
Yours?
No. That we had, what was that one we read that time I got drunk and saved the demon?
Yeah.
Were-dragon.
As a podcast,
I think I do like that term though. Good call on that. I've never seen one come about on a monthly cycle though.
Yeah, there's a lot of different lores for like dragon shifters, depending on the world or the stories you read. The newest Juliet Cross book, side note, has dragon shifters in it.
Is that
Firebird?
Yeah. Somebody said that. Ashley, did you say I'm not going to like that one?
Possibly.
I have it on my TBR. I'm scared to read it now.
There were concerns about the representation of the actual triggers.
I read about that. I finished the book. I read it. I finished it, I don't know, maybe last weekend, maybe. I thought it was fine for what it was, as far as the triggers. Like, I think that if you are reading even a fantasy world set in ancient Rome, Rome is known for its slave trade and its great infrastructure. So we're not talking aqueducts in this book.
I wasn't surprised, but I think a lot of people felt blindsided by that not being listed in the triggers or like the warnings. Like people had big feelings about that.
Yeah, I heard a lot of talk about it.
I warned Jonathan, like, hey, this might not be your jam. But we love Juliet Cross.
Yeah, I love Juliet Cross. I would say her fantasy, her like romantic type stuff, as opposed to more of the cutesy modern stuff. Not like the Stay Spell is like more cutesy modern fantasy, but like her like more fantasy romancy stuff of the stuff I read all tends towards dark romantasy. I would say in general, if I had to label it. So like if you have triggers, like read it before you get into it to know if it's something that you're gonna enjoy or not,
Right.
trigger warnings. My rating for this book, I gave it a 3. I thought that it was fine. I thought it was kind of flat. I thought we were told about a lot of things without being shown. It almost felt like this was the Cliff Notes version of a greater book.
Yes.
Yeah, it felt like this is the pitch, and then we didn't get the actual story, because I feel like the story was there. It just wasn't expanded upon. Like, it would have been amazing to see firsthand, how great of a fighter and a badass person Yiva was. But we never saw her. We're just told she was real badass. And it would have been great to have a better feel for how important it was to her to have that armor and that mask and that almost superhero alter ego, rather than almost very early on she goes to visit the queen or the girl king, and I felt like she took her mask off right away for the girl king. I'm like, oh, okay, that happened really early. So I enjoyed the concept of the book, and I wanted more out of it, I guess, ultimately, which I don't know that it was the right story for the novella. I think it needed multiple books or a longer book. It needed more detail, because I felt like the characters were flat because I didn't see them do enough. I just it felt like I was being told a story around the fire, like a campfire story, as opposed to something with some depth and having been put together ahead of time.
I don't think we had time for depth in 126 pages.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be. I mean, I'm not an author, right? But I agree with Mari. It felt almost incomplete.
Interesting.
Which I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you want more, the author leaves you wanting more. I would want the author to write a full length book of this. The author. They have other books that are longer length. Not all of their works are novellas. I'm really interested in reading some of their longer length stuff, because I think, given more real estate to put stuff in, I think they could create some real interesting worlds.
Yeah.
But this format for this story didn't do it for me, so I gave it a 3.
I agree.
The cover was amazing, though. That cover alone made me want to read it. It was very beautifully done. What did we think of fantasy world building aspects?
I thought it was fair. Again, when you're trying to pack so much in with not a lot of time, right? I mean, I definitely felt that the author was very, very, I want to say script. That's not the right word. It was almost poetic. It all flowed very nicely. It was all very mellow. Nothing was ever really urgent or crazy or chaotic. It was a very peaceful book for me. I didn't mind the world building. I don't think it was extravagant. I think, they did what they could in a very short book. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was a 3. I didn't feel anything was lacking enormously except more detail.
Yeah, I'm on that same page. I didn't think it was. I didn't think the world was built very. It was like a house of cards. It was. You could see a facade, but there was no depth to it. No real sustenance or substance for me. And I struggle because the television shows do it in 30 minutes, right? Whether it's a cartoon plot, everything kind of gets developed. We're here, this happened, and because this happened, we're now doing this. And I didn't get that vibe, although I did get very kind of Frozen vibes out of this story. I'm not, I can't articulate why.
Was it the Girl King, you think?
I'm not, it might have been the cavern, the idea that we're hiding something, we're hiding our magical prowess from outsiders, kind of thing. Yeah, I think I almost would have liked to have a stronger understanding of what was actually being risked. I don't think I captured that.
I think it was just orders.
What do you mean? Say more.
Like her orders were to go and kill the suspected dragon that was being harbored in that land.
Okay.
So the risk was completing the order and being the soldier that she's become, or opening herself to this new world of thoughts and feelings and emotions and not complying with what she's just being told to do and instead following her heart, knowing that there was more to the story.
Yeah, I think also the stakes was that if she didn't do that, the idea was that the emperor was then going to send in troops and take over what the guild knights did. It was going to kind of infringe on their way of doing things, right? I thought that was the vibe I got. And she had to succeed, right, because of that.
I think it comes to that too, right? So not only is her own sense of being and potential shame in not completing this task, right? Because this is all she knows now is, being this soldier, this warrior, this badass that gets the job done. So if she's not that person, then who is she? But then, the snowball effect of if she doesn't do it, then who's going to come in and try to do it for her?
Right.
And shit goes, sideways faster. You didn't get that, husband?
No.
As far as the fantasy world building, I actually thought was that the general aspect of it was pretty well done for as short of a book as it was. So I gave it a 4. I thought that the kind of Asian culture references, the political structure, some of the machinations in magic and lore laid down some good foundation. Like I said, it feels like a teaser or like a trailer for another book that's coming or a series of books that are coming. You know what I mean? So I feel like we got a peek into a world that could be really interesting. So for me, that aspect of it was a 4. What did we think about the romance?
I thought it was very slow burn. I think it's interesting to kind of see, the strong silent type in a woman. It wasn't anything life changing for me again, but I did feel, again, that the author was very poetic almost in her writing. And I did enjoy that part of, they didn't really flesh it out, but it did feel very slow and natural feeling for them to have bonded the way that they did. I thought, addressing the queer part of this story was very tasteful and tactful. It wasn't in your face. It wasn't, overwhelming. If that's not somebody's cup of tea, they're not going to, feel negatively about what they've read. I thought it was just a really pretty love story that was actually fairly integral to the plot of the story for a change. I don't think we've read one like that in a while. So I thought it was a 3.5. It was polite. It was tasteful. It wasn't, wild.
So I'm going to disagree here on this one. I didn't see a slow burn. There wasn't enough book for a slow burn. This book was a match. It just kind of it was on me before I knew what was happening. And then by the time I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this now. Okay, cool. It was gone. So it was we had a birthday party for a cousin one year, and they forgot to get the candles. And so they were like, you know what? We have matches. And you see where this is going. We sang happy birthday real quick. I don't even think we made it through the song. That's kind of where I was at with this one in terms of romance. It was like, oh, here it is. Oh crap, it's gone. Okay, cool. There was more, I guess, and maybe I'm conflating romance and spice here. Because I feel like I got there, and then all of a sudden it was in the rearview mirror, and we were back on to a quest for the truth. And I didn't really dig the romance again until the end, when she was like, "Yeah, just take my dad's bones." And I was like, "Oh, how lovely of you." Romance. If I was going to give it a rating, I'll probably give it the same rating. But my point of disagreement is that it was a slow burn. What about you, Mari?
For me, it was probably a 2. And it's the same reason I had issues with the book. I feel like we were told there was a romance, and it could have been a real interesting romance. Like, it would have been really interesting to see more dialogue and flirting between them when they were each, like, starting to like each other, but also had these huge secrets that they were each hiding. That would have been really interesting dialogue. But we're not shown any of that. We're just told that, oh, okay, well, Yiva likes the girl king. And so, like, I don't know, it felt like second meeting or something. She's this whole big deal about her not showing her face. She's all of a sudden, changing and changing out a part of her armor. And then, that felt like it went away really fast. And I feel like we're told that they were in love, but I didn't feel like it was shown to me in any sort of dialogue. So once again, it feels like it had this potential. It was a really interesting setup, but the book didn't quite make me feel the romance vibes. So that would be a 2 for me.
Would you say it's maybe missing, the book is missing the ability to present imagery in words?
I don't know that it's imagery so much as it is details. So much of books and stories that I like anyways end up being like snippets of conversations or particular scenes and things that happened. Like everyone who's seen and loves the Pride and Prejudice movie, which I love, just like I love the miniseries, just like I love the book. But the Pride and Prejudice movie, the new one, there's the scene where Darcy flexes his hand. And all I have to do is say that. And anyone who knows that movie, instantly, that the whole scene, the whole imagery, the vibe, the feeling, the emotions behind that, you know exactly what it is. Like it conjures so much. And I didn't feel like there were snippets like that in this book. So.
Interesting. Very, very.
And that just may be how I like to consume romance. You know what I mean? Like, romance is very personal and different people like different aspects of it. I like snapshots and moments that convey either snapshots and moments or snippets of conversation and flirting that convey a lot, about the characters and how they feel for each other. And I don't feel like I got that out of this book for me.
Yeah. Does it feel almost, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but does it feel almost juvenile?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, like I said, like a story you tell around a campfire. Feels like a fairy tale. Like, oh, and then, Cinderella and the prince fell in love.
Yeah,
that's the romance. Okay, I guess they did. So it feels like a fairy tale, folk tale kind of thing, which doesn't make it bad. It's just not what I was looking for out of the book based off of the description.
I agree. I think there's something to be said for us to be sitting here wanting or hoping that there could have been more. I think there's something here, but I don't think we got enough to we got a little taste, right. But we didn't really get the I want a fucking bite.
We got the amuse-bouche. Now we need like the multi-course meal. Like, I definitely want to read more by this author. I think that they have an interesting way of building worlds and an interesting way of telling stories that I think could benefit from longer books. So I plan on reading some of their novellas. Or novels, not novellas, novels, like full-length novels. I would like to read a full-length novel by them. What do we think about the spice? Speaking of food.
Oh, there was no spice.
None? You didn't get any?
There was 0 spice.
A hint?
Nope.
I mean,
a hint is still 0.
You're talking about boiled chicken? That's what you got?
Nope. Boiled chicken is still sustenance.
Dang.
There was not spice.
Bro,
there
you're harsh.
No, there was romance. I'm not mad at it.
Okay.
I'm quantitatively answering the question. There was no spice.
You walked by the kitchen and you got a whiff of the smell of a spice.
Yeah.
And kept going.
I thought there was kissing.
Was there kissing?
I don't think kissing was ever detailed. Like, there was sexy times that happened in theory that we're told, but
there were touches and caresses. Okay, I'll give it a 1. There was a 1 of spice.
One of space. That sounds like a Star Trek character.
She gave it salt. Didn't even give it the pepper.
I gave it the salt.
I don't disagree. Like I said, I feel like everything kind of just happened in like banker's hours. It's just like, hey, we're open, we're closed. But I understood what was like. I was at first. So I'm gonna be like, I came into this book and like, I was like, oh, we chose this book, Pride Month. We've got a queer story, and I was thinking about like, last year, I think, was it last or
Yeah.
2 years ago or something like that, we read Sebastian's book.
King, Holly King.
And so I was like, oh, okay, let me just come and like hang out here for this story and see how it compares. Like that was going to be my benchmark. But then I was like, oh no, this is a are the characters we're looking for here are definitely different than what Sebastian had plotted out. So I was like, all right, well, I got to refocus and pay attention a little bit more. So I was like, it was on me, and I thought like, oh, okay, this happened faster than I anticipated, and now it's gone. But I thought for what had happened, it was it was okay. I won't give it a whole bunch of stars, but I'll give it at least one more than y'all did. I'll give it a 2.
Okay. I give it a 1. I feel that we were told that there was spice, and that's where it was left. So once again, that doesn't make it a bad book. You don't have to have spice for it to be a good book. But this is definitely a low spice type of story. All right, last question about this book. Is it a kissing book?
Yes.
I'm gonna say yes, but only because if they didn't develop that spice, if they didn't have that connection, the Emperor would just came in and murked some folks. They would have found out what was going on, and if that connection wasn't there to rescue the situation at the end, that it would end very differently. So I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I kind of think so as well. I would say yes, it's a kissing book. I think that the story would not have happened the way it happened if it hadn't been for their romance with each other. Anything else we want to say about the book?
I thought it was a delightful little book.
Yeah.
It's just a little baby book.
It's a period piece, pun intended. I didn't get that at first, and then it was like getting slapped in the face with it all at once. And I think like I was in the car driving, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Cool. And I kind of like that. Like I thought it was like I feel like there was so much that could be that I wish I had more knowledge of. So
yeah.
that's my takeaway. The book wasn't terrible. It just there wasn't enough meat on the bone for me.
Yeah, it definitely got me interested in reading more of what the author could do in a longer format. I don't know that I would right now. I don't know that I would say that I would read another of the author's novellas, but I'm interested in reading one of their full-length novels for sure. All right, anything else before we move on?
No, I think we covered it.
All right, so before we move on to our little outro, I will say it's halfway through the year. We're not doing a full like mid-year review kind of thing, but just in general, what that you've read has been outstanding for you in the first half of the year, and or what are you looking forward to reading in the second half of the year?
Bro, my pre-order pile is scary. Why is my Amazon cart so scary? Hold on, sorry, distracted.
Because I put a basketball hoop in there.
Oh, geez. Sorry, guys. I feel like we read a couple of really good books. You guys didn't care for the My Corlin books this year, but I really love them, so I'm excited for book 3. Of course, we got Onyx Storm, in January, and that was a whole event in itself. After what, two years of waiting? God. I feel like we've had some really, really good books in the first half of the year, but I am stoked for the second half of the year. We have, where do I even start? So we have the Dramini fanfic retelling that's coming out, or like the revision, right? In July. We get Accomplice to the Villain in August. We have Callie Hart coming out in the fall.
I haven't read Callie Hart's already been out.
Abigail Owen in September, Alchemized in September. September's going to be a busy book month for us.
This month's going to be busy. You got to get cracking. There's so many, is right. Like Audible had a sale.
Audible had a sale. I made them buy all of the Jennifer Armentrout stuff for the Blood and Ash series. So there's like 5 books waiting for me there.
Yeah. The Penn Cole stuff I just got their, I got her limited edition stuff.
Oh, the special edition?
Yeah, with the painted edges. Those came. So now I feel like I'm ready to read her stuff, but I have to put it on the back burner because during that sale was some other stuff by Carissa Broadbent, Mother of Death and Dawn, Children of the Fallen Gods, Daughter of No Worlds. Those are all things
I'm really curious about reading those. Yeah, those are high on my list
because they're
too.
included until then. So there's all that stuff going on. Plus, I wanted to see if I could knock out Lightlark, and then I added in the balance of Throne of Glass. So I want to get through that too. Yeah, so there's all that, and then I still have some stuff from Juliet Cross that I have to get through. So it's gonna be a busy second half. And
well, I have read a lot so far this year, but I'd say the one standout for me at the beginning half of the year. It's a little bit of an older book. It was published in 2020. It's not new, but it's new to me. It's His Secret Illuminations, written by Scarlett Gale. And it's a romantasy story, but it's a different take on a romantasy story. So the female main character is bi or pan, and she is this kind of physically imposing, like large, badass warrior. Like she's a fighter type person. She's also bubbly and likes flowers. And the male main character of the story is this magical, very, very sheltered magical monk that she rescues. And they have to go on like a mission to find these secret books. And his whole world is just blown by her and by seeing everything outside of the little cloistered life that he's had. It's a little bit of a longer read. It's like 400 and something pages. But I very much enjoyed it. I still haven't read the sequel. It's a duology. I'm waiting on Libby for the sequel. But I very much enjoyed that in the first half of the year. That was a surprising 5-star read for me. And I found that through a Reddit post where people were asking for like unconventional romantasy stories because they were tired of like kind of the same, 18-year-old badass female main character who's good at everything and 500-year-old shadow daddy who all of a sudden loves her more than anything in the world. All right, so thanks for listening to Of Swords and Soulmates. Before we go, make sure to check the show notes, rate, review, and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice. It helps others to find us. Follow us on Instagram at Of Swords and Soulmates or join our Facebook page at Of Swords and Soulmates. Check us out on our website, ofswordsandsoulmates.com, or on YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest with the same username. If you'd like to offer a suggestion for a future episode, reach out to us, or if you would like to tell us what you've enjoyed in the first half of the year or what you're looking forward to, reach out to us and interact. If you want to read along with us as we prepare for a new episode, follow us on Goodreads at Of Swords and Soulmates for chapter by chapter interaction on the Fable app at the Of Swords and Soulmates Book Club. We also have a Tome account. You can follow us on there for tidbits. And last but not least, we hope you'll join us in 2 weeks for our next episode when we will be discussing Captured by the Fey Beast by Mallory Dunlin.